Yo, come along with your boy and let's do some aquarium maintenance. I'm gonna show y'all how I clean my tank, how I maintain it, how I get it looking right. Cause this thing look dirty as bull. Anyways, so this is my 15-gallon yellow tiger antler guppy tank. Most of my tanks are planted like this with this crazy jungle style, lots of plants growing all over each other to help the survival rate of the baby guppies. As you can see, there's lots of algae, there's lots of plants that are overgrowing their space, and there's not enough swim room for the adults. The baby guppies enjoy the algae and the overgrown plants because they can hide from the adults. The adults will eat them, but it's been long overdue since this tank has had some maintenance. We definitely need to mow this thing back, you know what I'm saying? Don't like snakes, keep my grass cut so low, can't even mow it, boy! So, first thing first, we are not cleaning the tank. When you have a planted aquarium, you don't want to get in there and clean it. The plants are your cleaner. They will absorb all the nutrients, all the extra waste that the fish are producing, and they will keep the tank clean. They will keep the water clean. Whenever you have a planted fish tank, you mostly want to work on your water parameters. We've got good light on here, we've got good substrate, and there's a lot of nutrients created by all these fish. So to get started, I am taking off a little bit of the floating plants. This right here is duckweed and it's completely covered the top of my tank. This stuff will double in size every other day. So you let one little plantlet get in there and it'll cover the tank. I like to do this first so that when we're down there trim the plants or looking in the tank, we can see and have a good amount of light shining through to see what we're trimming up. It is a long, painstaking process, but I promise duckweed is good for the tank. It absorbs a bunch of extra nutrients, and I have a high fish load. So that's really what I'm focusing on here, is not taking all of them off, but I'm gonna get a big majority out so we can see what we're doing. And it'll grow back in a couple of days, so I'm not really worried. So now that we can actually see in this thing, it's time to get that algae out. You see it's definitely creating a problem for the plants it's growing on. And I kind of lifted it up a little bit before the shot just so you could see how much algae there really was intertwined in that dwarf sage. This is just common hair algae. It grows in almost every tank that I got. I can't really get rid of it, but just for the aesthetic, I kind of want to take as much as I can out, because even though this is primarily a breeding tank, we're going to put a little aquascaping vibe on it. We want it to look nice too for viewing. A funny aspect about this tank is that I actually have a pretty substantial piece of driftwood in there. It's Malaysian driftwood, and I got it when I started the hobby, probably like 14 years ago. And this piece of driftwood will forever be in one of my tanks because my grandma got it for me for Christmas. And it was like the one thing I wanted. I had a tank, I had substrate, I had light. I just didn't have any cool accessories like Malaysian driftwood, you feel me, boy? But anyways, it's time to get started with the chop, boy. Time to mow this thing down. Right here, I start by trimming the pearl weed. There was a lot of algae that was growing in between the different nodes of the pearl weed, so I decided to just cut it in half. This plant is one of the more hardy plants. If you got good substrate, good light, it'll grow in anything. Like, it is completely surrounded by algae, and it's still growing up. When you're chopping the foreground, you want to chop it really low, because I'm going for that nice grassy look. That's kind of why I put the dwarf sage and the pearl weed right up front, so that when I trim it, you get just that nice grassy look. It looks like you're in like a forest with grass and you got these big trees coming out. Who knows, man? We're just getting real aquascapey and vibing with it right here. We're just trimming up the plants, making it look nice, and it's your time to go crazy. Even though I'm cutting these plants really short, they're gonna grow back just as fast. I probably trimmed this tank about 2 weeks ago, pulled all the algae out, trimmed these plants down this much, and you see how much growth was back after about 2 weeks. So now that we mowed that thing down, it's time to take care of our background to mid-range growing plants. This right here is Ludwigia repens. It is the common type. I've got a narrow leaf, I've got the bright red, but this is just regular old repens. It's got a pretty funny common name. It's called Creeping Primrose Willow. Creeping Primrose Willow? The heck is that, man? No, that's Ludwigia repens. You know, hey, don't disrespect my boy. So these plants right here are actually salvageable. you can chop them in half and then stick that piece down into the substrate. It will grow roots and it'll grow thicker and bushier. I know I'm trimming the tank up and trying to create more swimming space, but all the new babies that pop out, they're gonna need some new places to hide. So we're gonna make this thing look bushier and stand out and look nice, you feel me, boy? So now that we got all the plants chopped up that we can easily get to with the scissors, it's time to take care of all these plants that are making this jungle look and growing in between everything. Mostly it's my jungle val that is creeping in and sending runners through all the other plants, and it just does not look really good unless it's like in the back or if you have a tank just full of jungle val. So I reach in there and find the little growth points where it pops out and it sent its runners to, and I kind of just yank them out. The substrate is capped with sand, but the original substrate is sea chem fluorite and it won't cloud up the water too much. So I just kind of yank them out and then I throw them away. I'm kind of just yanking at the base and not really pulling the whole plant out. Some of these are not salvageable just because you have to pull it out with roots attached. I'm also kind of making sure that I don't scoop up any babies, so you see me crumbling the leaf into my hand. It's because I'm trying to like give the babies time to swim away from my hand. I'm kind of pushing stuff around. These guppy babies like to swim right up to you. Guppies act like they are never fed. I think they are the hungriest fish that I have ever owned. So whenever you're pulling them out, make sure you kind of like shake your hand to make sure that there's no little guppy babies coming up. You see that piece, how I'm just kind of chopping it and not really pulling up the roots? That's why I'm not salvaging these. And this one isn't too long, but I've had these things taller than me. So now that was pretty much all of the mowing we're gonna do. I chopped up most of the foreground, I cut down some of the background plants, and I pulled all the plants that are just running a nuisance in my tank. That jungle val will grow really fast and it'll grow over everything. Whenever you're taking out all the plant trimmings, make sure that you shake everything around, you run your hands down the leaves. These little guppies will try and get right out the tank. I don't know, are they crazy, man? What the heck is up with them? But I shake out the leaves a lot because there is a little bit of algae. There is like lots of plants that they love to hide in. So once we've got everything all chopped up, we've moved around a lot of plants, we've taken out all the trimmings, it's time to do the water change. So when I do water changes on most of my guppy tanks, I don't just put the hose in there and pull the water out. I put a breeder box in there so that we're not sucking up any little babies. Like, they love to take a ride on there. Hey, yo, pause. But they will get sucked up through the tube. Pause. Hey, let's keep it PG. Anyways, we're saving babies. So for filling this thing up, I just take the hose and dump it straight in there. Bam, boy. But I keep my hand covered so that the water does not stir up all of the plants that I have in there. I put a lot of work in this thing, man. Just chopped it up. I ain't got a fresh cut. I like your cut, G. But this water is just straight from my tap. The temperature is probably like 60, 65. And it's fine for the fish. The plants will start filtering it immediately. So once you've done the water change, you've trimmed up all the plants, you've taken all the algae out, you're pretty much done. For all these little particles that we've kicked up though, I like it to have that instant finish look. I use API AccuClear. This stuff right here will bind all the heavy particles and all the stuff that you kicked up into the water. It'll bind it all together and it'll drop to the floor. Or it'll get sucked up into your filter. Hey, yo. But you use 1 milliliter per 10 gallons. So I put 2 little milliliters in there, and within an hour, you get this nice clear look. There is still a couple little floating particles, but eventually they will all get sucked up. Hey, yo. But yeah, for planted aquariums, you're not really cleaning it. You're just doing constant preventative maintenance to keep all the plants and fish happy. Here's a little top view of what we trimmed. You see there's lots of swimming room. The fish look happy, the plants look happy. I've got different bunches of plants, and I've got a nice foreground, and now we can see the driftwood. Let's go. I told you there was some in there, man. Check it out, man. So tell me what you think. Let me know down in the comments. You know, follow me on Instagram at BasedXKing, YouTube at BasedXKing, all socials at BasedXKing, and let's get to the next one, boy. It's 2024. It's time to go. Let's go.